hear something. Oh shoot! I didn't get enough time to go grab my liquid death.
The countdown is on.
What's up, Tony Klein?
Hey, buddy. I have we've got a lot to talk about today. We've had a lot going on lately.
We have had a lot going on.
Yeah,
A lot of
so
good
I
stuff.
know we're going to talk a little bit about the retreat that you and I went to together.
Yeah,
But
let's do it.
there's your Liquid Death. Still not sponsored. Somebody from Liquid Death reach out to us. You will reach
Hashtag
our
not
tens
sponsored.
of fans. That's great. So I hosted a retreat in Keystone, Colorado. We're going to talk a little bit about that. You immediately went from that retreat to another retreat, another 5-day retreat. So we're going to talk a lot about the benefits of getting into small group and just being around people
Let's
who
do
are
it.
like-minded and just the impact that it can have on your life and your business. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
All right. So, welcome back, everybody, to the Property Management Success Podcast. We are here with Mark Brower on the Property Management Aid Station. Mr. Brower, let's talk about what we've been doing.
Yeah, heck yeah. So Tony Klein hosted an amazing retreat in Keystone, Colorado. What was it like? What was the elevation there? Like 10,000 feet?
It was over 10,000 feet. It was right around 10.
Wow. And wow, just filled a beautiful space with beautiful people and world class cuisine. And we were just absolutely downloading the best food, intelligence, and relationships that I've ever experienced over a 3-day period of time. And that was exceptional. It was fantastic. It was wunderbar. I'm studying German on Duolingo.
There we go. I wondered, I kept turning up my mic. Bring your mic just a little bit closer. That's a
A little
new,
bit
you got a
closer.
new, that's a new fancy mic, right?
No, it's my old, just OG.
Oh,
What's going
man.
on with my mic? All right.
All right. No,
So,
that's good. Yeah, just keep it close to your face. Okay, so at this retreat, why we were there, I agree. The food was fantastic. Jacob on our team did just a fantastic job finding the right private chef to come into the event for us. But
so
what
good.
were we there for? What was taking place?
Well, we were there to learn about the championship team building formula and how that relates to property management businesses. And maybe more importantly, we were there to go deep with relationships, knowledge, connection, and application in a way that you just can't get. Tony Klein is not paying me right now for this endorsement, but in a way that, so this is all legit. This is all real feedback from Mark here. We went deep in a way that you just don't see in conferences. Certainly not in the nameless, faceless sea of people conferences, right? And even some of the smaller, I would say medium-sized events that are hosted in our industry, this was a completely different experience. This was a lived experience, all the walls down, just hanging out all day together for 2.5, 3 days, and we had an exceptional lineup of people there to share knowledge and experience, and then there was an opportunity while you're hiking on a trail or sitting around a fire or eating phenomenal food. There's an opportunity to reflect and apply specific context specific to my business right now, which you just don't get that. That's so rare. You mentioned I went to a second retreat. One of the things that they said at the guru at the second retreat I was at, he said, we don't learn from experience. We learn by reflecting on experience. And what a great opportunity your retreat gave to experience and reflect on experience and apply experience all together.
One of the things that I really wanted to build in with that retreat was time for us to make connections that we wouldn't normally make. So we had everybody come in. We wound up having two private estates that we had. We had a presenter house, and then we had the attendees, and we had everybody. We were all roommates, and some people had suites, and we brought them in, but we basically all woke up together, obviously in separate rooms, but we woke up together. And then the very first thing we did was we hit the trail at 7 in the morning. We walked down by, it was called Snake Creek, and there was a little creek, a little trail by it. And I have to be honest with you, one of the things I talk about is one of our core values is to be courageous, to act courageous. If you think it's the right thing to do, you do it. And I believe that getting everybody out of the work environment, out of the house, out of a conference room, and getting us on the trail out in nature where we could walk side by side or one behind the other on this little single track trail, sometimes double wide. But out there to build these kind of connections, I knew that had to be a really critical part of the retreat to kick off each day, to get us in a different mindset. And this is the courageous part I'm talking about, because there was some vulnerability. I didn't know if anybody would say, okay, I'm going to wake up in time for everybody to meet at 7 in the morning to go out on this hike. And I have to say, some of the feedback I got was that the sessions that we provided were fantastic, but the networking and the relationships that were built out on the trail, walking in nature, especially for people from Texas and some of the Midwest, where they're the flatlanders, to get up at 10,000 feet and walk along the trail, just after the sun came up. That was some of the best feedback that we got.
Flatlanders.
Is that
The landlubbers.
Is that a negative term? Or can I not say flatlanders?
It just sounds like you're a pirate calling people landlubbers.
Is this our last episode? Are we about to get canceled by cancel culture because I used flatlanders?
I hope we are. I hope there's someone that tries to cancel us. If not, we're not opinionated enough, Tony.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so we got a bunch of property management entrepreneurs together. We fed them fantastic. I want to ask you. We'll wrap up with this because I want to get into your other retreat. But we had really good relationship. I think I printed 277 pages worth of material. Not that we went through all of it, but we wanted to have the resources for everybody so that whatever we were talking about, you had resources for my coaching program. And so we did that. Let's break down the food a little bit before we bounce to your other retreat. So thinking back, we had 10 just fabulous meals prepared by a private chef. She came in and she stayed with us the entire time. Cooked 10 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, had dessert at the dinners, dessert at lunch. Give me a couple of your favorite dishes there.
Oh my gosh. You expect me to remember the names of these exquisite dishes?
Well, I'll tell you. So we had quail, we had salmon, we had one of my favorite appetizers, lobster. We had some of my favorite appetizers we had 1,000-layer potatoes with creme fraiche and caviar, and that was just over the top. We had lobster wrapped scallions.
We had pork belly,
fried pork belly with some kind of fruit glaze. I don't know, it was like apricot or I don't know, something. It was fantastic. But beef Wellington, lobster.
Let me just tell you something about the food here at this retreat. The food was so refined, so delectable, so rich that my stomach wasn't used to it. It's like, Mark, what's going on here? And I was actually worried, this is a legitimate fear, that I was spoiling myself. You know how sometimes, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where you eat better and better food and then you're like, I can't do Taco Bell. I was like, oh shoot, the bar is rising again. Is this really worth it? It was so worth it. It was great. It was so good.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to touch on the food, we talk a lot in my coaching business, and you and I talk a lot about building a championship team. What, like, would this happen or would this be tolerated on a championship team? How do we perform at the highest level? And I really think when you start leaning into that, it's exciting. It's fun. It's fun to say, okay, we provide service, but what if we provided championship level service? What if we performed not a high performance team, but what if we performed at the highest level? And that's what we wanted to do with the food. We could have had the same material presented without the food that we had. We could have said, let's just bring in Chipotle and have them bring in them big tubs of beef and do a little catering, and you throw some lettuce on a thing and you have a taco or burrito. Like, we could have done that and the material would have been the same. But we looked at every aspect of how do we provide the best experience possible, the most effortless experience possible for the people that we were trying to serve. And the food had to be a component. Now, in property management, food doesn't need to be a component, but there's something that we're not doing in our property management business that if we just did a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit different, it puts us in a different category.
100%.
And one of the things I wanted to do with this retreat was to take me out of the conference scene. I wasn't trying to put on another conference. And I actually caught some heat from it. You know that. We talked about that. There was a troll in our industry that's throwing shade because I was charging people the amount that I was charging them to put them in this environment. And he didn't see the vision. He obviously didn't know behind the scenes what we were doing, what we were planning, what the experience was going to be. So it's fine for him to judge, but he was judging on false pretense. He had no idea what the experience was actually going to be. And it's the same thing in our business. There are people who may say, you know what, you're charging too much, or you're offering services that the masses don't want. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? We're looking for our target client profile. We're trying to create that category of one that our friend Pablo talks so much about, and taking the services we offer, combining it with an elevated experience, and making it so that it doesn't matter that the person down the street charges 2% less on their management fee and they don't charge a lease renewal fee.
Irrelevant.
And it's totally irrelevant. It's a different experience, right?
Totally.
So I wanted to put on this retreat, number one, because I love the mountains. I love networking. I love going deep with people. We talked about we're not looking to fill the church pews. We're looking for our pallbearers, the people we have deep relationship with. And from all the feedback I got, it was a 10 out of 10 plus. We're already planning the next two events. So it's really exciting that people are interested in that type of event and being around that type of leadership where we bring in people that can help us in our business and then just have idea exchange and have a place where we can be vulnerable about what's going on in our businesses.
Yeah, let me just talk about the cost for a moment. The criticism around the cost. I think I've thought a lot about opportunity cost versus financial cost in my own business, and I think this principle of opportunity cost versus financial cost is one of the most important mindset shifts that can occur in a business owner's mind and in a business leader's mind. It's applicable to our landlord clients also. How are we, and so here's something that just popped into my head. I'll try to get back on track in a second here. How can we possibly expect our landlords to make a shift in the way they think from financial cost to opportunity cost? Meaning, if I don't fix this thing, if I don't take good care of this rental property, the cost of not doing so over the long run is going to be a lot more than the financial cost that I'm presented with right now. How can we expect our clients to make that shift if we don't make that shift in the way we're thinking? Here's how that applies, at least in my mind. I once attended some guy presented at an entrepreneur organization event I was at, and he put a number up on the board in the front of the room. This is like 8 years ago. The number was $23,578.19. And he said, "What do you think this number represents?" And we all guessed, and we all guessed wrong. And he said, "This is the amount of money I spent on my education and my training, my coaching and education this last year. Do you think it was worth it?" And at the time, I didn't have, at least I didn't think I had that level of money to invest in myself. And I thought, this is crazy. This is a total paradigm shift. Like me spending like $100 or $200 a month on a coach felt unreachable to me, or expensive to me at that time. But since then, as I look back, and that was 7-8 years ago, I have every year spent more and more money on myself. So I've increased my cost, my financial cost, just for what's going into my brain and the relationships and the connections coming to me in business. But the opportunity that investment has made has been at least tenfold, right? And so if how much money would you invest in yourself to stop making less than $1 million a year? That's a brilliant question that I've probably mentioned on this podcast before, that Alex Hormozy once posed, and it really stopped me in my tracks and had me thinking, like, wow, I have the potential of making so much more money than I am right now. How much would I be willing to invest to change the way I think, to establish the types of relationships, to be in the right rooms, so that I stop not making $1 million a year? Well, the answer to that should be a huge amount of money. What if you could invest $1 million in yourself right now to ensure that you made over $1 million a year from this point forward for the rest of your life? Would that be a good investment? The point I'm trying to make here, Tony, is the ROI on relationship and knowledge in our own, between our ears, is the highest ROI we could get from anything that we do. And let me sorry, I'm going a little long on this. Let me take this down a notch. What if there was something I could learn at an event that from this point forward permanently caused me to make at least another $50,000 a year in income? That's a much smaller ask. It's a smaller ask. Well, the lifetime value of an annuity that pays you $50,000 a year from this point to the end of your life is like $600,000, and you get a 12% ROI. Are you kidding me? And I'm going to balk at spending a few grand here and there at deepening my relationships, expanding my horizon. One of the exercises we did at this retreat, just one of them, was worth the total investment for me. I came away with a completely new, empowered vision about who my ideal client profile is. And trust me, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that over the years. I came away empowered, supercharged, with a new ICP profile that I just used today before we got on this meeting, on this podcast, in creating some videos that I think are like way better than videos I've created in the past, because I know exactly who I'm talking to. Not just what they mean to me and what I require of them, but who they are and how they're living their life and what's important to them. Okay, I'm talking too much. But that's the point I wanted to make. It was such a worthwhile investment.
So I'm going to stack on top of that a little bit, and then I'm going to tie back a second point that relates to this. So the first one is, even the presenters that we had, that we invited out to provide value, even those people that came out, each one of them told me that they learned something, like not just, oh, that was interesting, but they said, we really learned something that is going to radically change our business by attending this event, because they were able to be in the room for the entire time. And a lot of times when you have a presenter, they come in, they spend their 45 minutes on stage, they do 20 minutes or 30 minutes of Q&A, they kind of walk around the hallways, maybe they're selling a book, who knows, but then they jet out. And so they don't really pick up what else is going on at the event. And that the target client profile, the ICP, that exercise that we worked on, every single person that was in that room got a lot more clarity. And it was from the questions that were asked from the other attendees, helped each one of us just craft that ICP even more, because we weren't being talked at. We weren't having a conversation in a vacuum. It was a small enough group that you felt comfortable, just like you were sitting around a table with a group of friends. You didn't raise your hand to talk. You didn't sit in silence because you were afraid to be the first one to talk. And we did that episode after episode. We had 21 different sessions in the time that we were together. So anyway, I wanted to just confirm it wasn't just you picking up value. Every single person gave me the feedback that they had at least one thing that they came up to me and talked to me about, that it was going to radically change the way they operated. So, and then I wanted to tie back another point that you made about even if it was just $50,000 that you got, one of the things I talk about, and this is separate from investing in yourself and separate from the retreat, but one of the things we did discuss there, and one of the things that I've been leaning heavy into with my clients is, and I'm just going to use dumb numbers here, so don't get caught up on the numbers themselves. But if you are somebody who should be earning $100 an hour, so you're a $100 an hour person, you're the owner of the company, you should be earning $100 an hour. Every time you're like, oh, I could just take care of that. Oh, I could run that lockbox and put that lockbox on the property. I could, I don't know, I could take that tenant call, or I could, whatever it is, doesn't matter. If you have somebody on your team that could be or should be handling that, and they make $20 an hour, then every time you're doing $20 an hour work and you should be doing $100 an hour work, you are costing yourself and your business and your team $80 an hour. And so I think it's I talk all the time about, as an entrepreneur, I should only do the things that I can do, or I should only do the things that only I can do. And I should hire out, delegate, or outsource everything else. And that's really hard to do that day in and day out, because there are things I love to do that just rationally don't make sense, because I could hire somebody to do that, but I just love to do it. And so I find myself being pulled back into things. But if I'm not the captain of the ship and I'm not setting the vision of the direction we're going, then nobody is. And so while I'm down there doing the $20 an hour rowing the oars, nobody's doing the $100 an hour, setting course. And I think it's really important that in order to set the proper course, that goes back to investing in ourselves and having the connections and having the education to put us on the right course. So I wanted to tie those things together.
Yeah. Two things I want to say. The second one is about a conversation that you and I had privately at the event, which wasn't part of the itinerary at all, which was really beneficial to me. But first, I want to just tie that back to, again, opportunity costs. If I was to talk to Mark 10 years ago, what Mark 10 years ago would say to me is like, yeah, I get it, man. I shouldn't be doing these low-level tasks, but I just don't have the cash to hire anybody. And, I had that mindset until I was up against a brick wall and I was going to burn out or have a nervous breakdown, because I was working till 2 a.m. like 3 times a week.
We say all the time, nothing changes if nothing changes. Right?
And eventually what happened was I thought, this is all going to crash and burn. I'm going to have to go try to get a job working for somebody else, and that's going to be miserable because I don't have the personality to work for anybody else. And I'd been fired from every job I had up to that point in life anyway. And I remember thinking, I've got to hire somebody even though I don't have the money for it. And that act of faith of going out and getting really lucky, actually, and hiring my current director of operations, who I could not afford. And you talk about building a championship team. Part of that is hiring leaders, not just surrounding yourself with a bunch of cheap assistants. That's a death march. You and your gaggle of cheap assistants are marching towards the edge of the cliff. That's what I was doing. And so I got to this point where I'm like, I have got to get some help. I'm going to lose it. And I did. And then everything shifted. And guess what happened? Almost immediately, with my time and energy freed up, I produced more revenue for the business. And it's look, you got, if I'm talking to Mark 10 years ago, if somebody's listening to this and you're me 10 years ago, look, you have got to believe that you got yourself where you are before you got bogged down in all the minutia you're dealing with, you have the ability to grow a business if you have time and energy. And when you buy back that time and energy, the cash will come faster than you think. It's an act of faith, and God will reward that act of faith. It's just how it works. Second thing I wanted to share is I'm in a place in life right now where it's really important to me that I level up as a leader. And that was one of my goals in going to the Onyx retreat, was to level up as a leader. And part of that includes some pretty deep introspection about what's the locus or the nucleus of my self-worth. Am I chasing self-worth in doing things that are sort of holding me back from being the type of leader I want to be? I want to use my gifts. So some of my gifts are ideas and vision, and I want to use these ideas and gifts, but I don't want them to be sort of shrouded or tainted or attached with any kind of unhealthy emotional needs that I might have as an individual. And so one of the most beneficial things I got out of this retreat is I was able to ask you, because I have the kind of relationship I do with you, pull aside one-on-one and say, hey, when I'm sharing ideas, how am I coming across? I want my ideas to add value to people's lives. I don't want them to be a cry for self-worth. And you were able to give me a good reflection that helped just shift a little bit. And so that's those, you can't, I mean, maybe you could get that at a conference, but this is the kind of environment where leadership development happens in a different realm, and at a different pace, or the impact can be a lot more. And so that moment wasn't on the agenda, but it's one of the reasons why that format of an event is special.
Well, I appreciate that. That was a special moment for me too, because to have a relationship with people who I trust and care about, and feel like we are a part of each other's championship team. We are helping each other, pushing each other, holding each other accountable, making sure that we see our full potential. It was a very honest conversation that we had, and I think it provided value for both of us. And so I don't want people to think that are listening that this was just a commercial, because honestly, I don't even have another retreat announced yet, but it's coming. But we just wanted to kind of reflect on whether you get involved with this or something else. Get yourself into a small group. If you want to get into a men's group, get into that. A women's group, get into that.
Yes.
If a co-ed, it doesn't matter, but get into a group of people who are striving to be better than what they are today, and they see that there's an opportunity to get around other people who are also doing that, where they're not trying to do it themselves. Because the hardest thing, I was thinking about this morning. We got another topic we got to talk about. I've become a cyclist almost. Almost. So we got to circle back to that. But
oh my gosh,
while I was out to my doing my bike ride this morning, I thought entrepreneurs are simultaneously both the hardest, grittiest people I know, and the fragilest, most self-doubting people on the planet simultaneously. And it just depends on the time of day, depends on the mood, depends on the last conversation. And those are kind of hard conversations to have anywhere else except for in a small, close, intimate setting where you can be fragile but yet protected with the conversations that you have.
Yeah, true. Amen, brother.
All right. Okay. So
we need to talk more about cycling, because I just got bit by the cycling bug yesterday. I'm like, whoa, what if I just started cycling instead of running so much? So we need to talk a little bit more about that. But we're at an aid station right now where there's runners coming in. So
do they have aid? I don't even know if they have aid stations in cycling. I haven't gone that far yet. So okay. Before we wrap up, you went to another. So this is amazing to me. You came right off our retreat. Were you even home like 48 hours I don't even know how long you were home.
You know what's crazy is the day I had to leave the your retreat early.
Yeah, a few hours,
Yep,
something
a
like
few
that.
hours early because I had been invited to join another small group, a men's group of entrepreneurs, which I was honored. And so I flew home. I did that. It was like a half day meeting the next morning, and that was really cool. And that was kind of my trial session, and then they everybody voted and they thought I would be a good fit. So I'm in, and I committed to that. I'm very excited about that. And then a few days after that, I flew to Salt Lake City, and then we bussed over to Heber, and we stayed in a huge Airbnb, similar to my experience with you. This time with 30 people, and that was wild. You saw my post on LinkedIn about that. I did a big write up in my newsletter, which is so vulnerable. I'm not. I'm like sitting on it right now. I'm like, do I really want to put this issue out? But it was wild. This is embarrassing. I'm at 3% on my MacBook, and I have no ports open for chargers because I'm using this like heads-up display. So
I love it. So we're gonna just go for 3%. When you drop off, it's a cliffhanger, and I'll just fill
you
in
want
the
me to keep
blank of
going?
yeah, I'll fill in the blank of whatever it winds up being. So
All right, all right.
all right,
I'll try to keep this tight.
all
So
right.
so so this other retreat I went to, the guy's name is Bob Gardner, and it's like the freedom specialist. You can look him up online. This was the last retreat he was going to do because he's going through an iteration and becoming a lot more spiritual and Christian based. But this was all about kind of like some Taoist, Buddhist, Hindu, like Tai Chi. Meets Krav Maga, meets Russian stick therapy, meets like transcendental, guided breath work. Like this was some really intense stuff, and it was the intersection of the mind, the body, and the spirit in a way that I'd never experienced before. I mean, I go to church every Sunday. I grew up member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS. And so I thought I understood spirituality. This was an integration of the mind, body, and spirit in a way I've never experienced before. And it was life-changing. There were people, and just to give you a little bit more background or anybody that's listening, like I've always been cynical about chiropractors. I'm going to be honest with you. Muscle testing, like what is this garbage? This is all manipulation. These people, it's all voodoo stuff, snake oil. This retreat opened my eyes to the fact that our bodies have such a powerful impact on not only our quality of life, but how we interact with other people, how we are able to achieve our access to our best resources, our emotions. It was really life altering. It was really life changing. And I know you would have really been into this stuff. I'll just give you one small snippet before my battery dies. Hopefully, I'll get through this. There's something called Russian stick therapy or stick work, where it's like a cross between like massage and torture, and it's closer to the torture side of things, but it's done with love.
So like ultra running. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And this is it. I've never seen so many grown men sob. I mean, we got this done within 24 hours of meeting each other, and 80% of the participants there were men, and they were laying down, having this, and like, and the provider of the service was using these sticks and finding these spots where there was trauma and emotion locked up in the body, and releasing these. And I'm witnessing these men sob and say, "I don't know why I'm crying," as they're sobbing. When I got that face down on the mat and they started working on me, the guy asked me after doing quite a bit of work, and it was very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. He leaned down next to my ear and he goes, "What are you holding on to?" And I said, "I don't feel like I'm holding on to anything except for the thought of me being 50 miles into a 60-mile race, and I'm just focusing on my breath right now." So it was very similar, and it was amazing. I'm getting the chills thinking about it right now, Tony. You and I, I'm sure we're going to talk more about this. The work that you and I have done in ultra running is a really powerful thing. And while I saw all these other people getting the similar experience through sort of this forced, like musculoskeletal, like emotional, traumatic, like painful experience, I was just going back to my pain cave in my running, and I realized, holy cow, this ultra running stuff has actually healed a lot of the trauma I had in my life already. And I've been in some uncommonly dark, painful places, confronting myself when there's nothing else that could get into my psyche, my body, and my heart.
It looks like Mark might have dropped off. It looks like he ran through his 3%. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But before I do, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've got coming up. As I mentioned, we've got 2 more retreats planned. If you are interested in just being the first to know, this isn't a commitment. This isn't anything that you are doing other than just sharing an email address with us so that we can get you on the list. If you're interested in attending our next Onyx retreat, visit Onyx Waitlist, so ONYX waitlist.com, and get on the list, and you will be made aware of what our plans are, where we're going to be. We're scouting out some pretty exotic locations, and you will be able to be on the wait list to be the first to find out, not to commit, not to do anything other than just get the first opportunity to raise your hand and say, I'm interested in attending. Again, we plan on continuing to keep these events small. We did have enough interest that we could have grown it quite a bit, but that was not the intent. The intent is to keep it small. So with that, it looks like Mark DNF'd on this podcast. So we are going to wrap up and get you all out of this aid station. We will see you all next time, and have a great journey.